Yes, people, another edition of Knightz and the Round Table Discussions where we discuss all sports all the time. I've got my guy Tooth with me, just the two of us today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, bruv. How are you, man? Good to make this happen, man.
Of course. And neither of us are in an entanglement, as that's the word for the weekend, entanglement.
Yeah. An entanglement with August.
But yes, we are going to be recapping on what just took place last night, UFC 251. As you can see, the two gents in my background, Usman versus Masvidal. We also had two co-main events, Alexander versus Max Holloway and Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. But we'll start with the main event, Usman versus Masvidal. Tooth, what did you think of it, bro?
Honestly, I was expecting a more exciting fight, but for what it was a very good fight. It was a back and forth fight, on the ground. I think it was undeniable that it was all Usman's world, and standing up again, I think it was pretty clear. Masvidal was the more superior fighter standing up. We discussed this in our pre-fight show. Usman will probably be going out there to lay and pray, grapple, wrestling, getting tired. And he did. He did everything he said he was going to go out to do. I think as fans, before the fight, if you asked us how we would see Usman winning, it would be in that fashion as well. And that's what we, again, discussed in the pre-fight show that we had. In terms of Masvidal, we have to factor in it was on 6 days' notice. He had 20 pounds to cut, the jet lag, adjusting to the climate. Not to say that didn't also affect Usman as well, but, Usman had a longer fight camp. Despite the fact he was training for Burns, he still had a full fight camp. Mm-hmm. So he went in there a bit more sharper than Masvidal, and that was evident as well. Masvidal done a good job in the first few rounds, getting back up to his feet. But then in the end, that suffocating game pressure that Usman deployed wore him down. And that's the dangerous thing about Usman is that, he's kind of got that Khabib pressure going on. Mm. He isn't Khabib, but it emulates that sort of pressure. Like every time, even if you do get up, you're going straight back down. And
that's what he did. It was constant grappling. I think... if I remember off the top of my head correctly, I think in the clinch time was something like 10 minutes of the fight. And I was just like, it's absolute madness how long he had them in the clinch. But I was impressed with as I said, we knew that Masvidal had good takedown defense, and the majority of takedowns he did defend pretty well. When he came out, he went swinging as we know he would do. But then within the first 30 seconds, we saw that Usman grabbed the leg and took him straight down. But I wanted to touch on the fact that it was 6 days' notice. Was Masvidal right in taking the title shot, knowing that the outcome that I think most people expected to happen happened? Should he have waited, or is it a thing of he gained more respect for taking it on 6 days' notice, and it was like, well, if I win, I can show everybody that this guy's trash, but if I lose, well, I've got the 6 days notice. So what can I do in 6 days notice? Do you know what I mean? In terms of having no training camp.
Yeah, this is something that he actually touched upon before the fight in one of his interviews. He said that people were going to be using the 6 days as a pass, as an excuse if Masvidal lost. And it is true. I do believe, certain hardcore Masvidal fans will be using that card immediately. However, I'm not disappointed that this fight took place, man. I'm very happy it took place. I think it was a win-win situation for Masvidal. He got the chance to fight for the title. He got a pay increase. He also got a lot of respect for doing that. Again, on 6 days' notice, the jet lag flying out there, the weight cut, adjusting to the climate. It was tough, and he pulled it off like a true warrior. He didn't complain, didn't bring up none of that stuff in the interviews. And quite frankly, he handled his business in there. Do you know what I mean? And this was, again, against the Usman who was coming in there sharp and prepared. or at least offer full fight camp. We can give him that much. And he was just coming in on 6 days' notice after July the 4th, which is like American Independence Day, eating at you know what I mean? Eating at barbecues, chilling out. Like he wasn't in a full fight camp. And it's interesting because, you know, he put in some work in there. It's interesting. You brought up the clinch, and the clinch was something that I forgot to talk. There was a lot of things we forgot to talk about in the pre-fight show, but one of the things I forgot to mention specifically was Jorge's ability in the clinch. He's very underrated in the clinch, and he's very dangerous in the clinch. Again, going back to his last fight against Nate Diaz, who right now isn't the best in the world, but still a very dangerous opponent whose whole game is based on forward pressure.
Yeah.
So Masvidal was able to do to him in the clinch. I thought people are going to be sleeping on Masvidal in the clinch in this fight. And again, in the early parts of the Usman fight, Masvidal showed that, you know, he was pretty comfortable in the clinch. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't out of his depth in there. He was handling business. But then again, as the fight wore on, and Usman with that, you know, that undeniable pressure and just the way that he fights is suffocating. You know, you could see it taking its toll on Masvidal. And
because you can see that Masvidal gassed out, and that's obviously not having a full training camp.
Yeah, those body shots. Yeah. Usman was very smart. Sorry to interrupt, bro, but just to add these 2 points that literally came to my head right now was Usman was, again, smart with his game plan in the whole laying and praying, just constantly take him down, put him on his back, and the body shots. You know, went straight to. I mean, that was the smartest way of handling such a dangerous opponent. And, you know, hats off to him.
Yeah, he negated Masvidal's offense, which is obviously the stand-up game. He's so far superior to Usman. So Usman made it tight, clinch, gave him the body shots, tried to wear him down. But Masvidal didn't get ragdolled. It wasn't a Khabib-type situation. He handled his business well. Just on Usman, because I know a lot of UFC fans, hardcore and casual, weren't impressed because of how dominant Usman was, that he didn't finish the fight. I know you referred to it in the pre-fight show that he doesn't really finish anybody. And considering Masvidal 6 days in, he was tired. You could see, I think it was after round 2, like he was breathing heavy. Usman still didn't go in for the kill. Now, the smart thing is don't get into anything. Do what Usman done. Win it in 5 rounds. Move on.
Listen, you remember in the pre-fight show, I said one of the two is the fighter and the other one is the athlete. You remember me saying this, bro? And that's why. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think it came down to. Usman is more of the athlete. He's got the game plan. He's smarter. He didn't see the need to risk going in there guns blazing. You know, I think at a certain point he just thought to himself like, look, I can win this fight and I can coast through this fight just by keeping him on his back. You know what I mean? And that's what he did. And that's what happens with certain, you know, athletes in this game. Some of them are athletes, some of them are fighters. Jorge, Nate, Nick, these guys go in there for blood. You know, Gaethje, they go in there for blood. They don't mind if they get knocked out.
Yeah.
That's a very dangerous opponent. Whereas, you know, on the other hand, you've got Usman and fighters of that sort of mold who come in there strategically with a game plan, death by 1,000 cuts.
I'm talking death by 1,000 cuts. Oh, I'd like to see that.
You know, that's how they play the game.
Yeah, of course.
Interesting. I was having this conversation on my WhatsApp group with some of my boys, and they were saying, you know, what they saw in Usman is a lot of what GSP was doing in his prime. You know, GSP was that whole style was like, look, I'm just going to dominate you from start to finish. I don't need to finish you. I'm comfortable just coasting from round to round and just dominating you, you know. That essentially is the difference between, like I said, someone who goes in there looking for blood or someone that goes in there looking for the strategic way to completely dismantle you. So, yeah, in terms of the fans, I don't think he won over any fans, but he certainly got the respect of the people in the know. So people that follow the sport will definitely, to both guys, we tip our hats to both guys, because it was an entertaining fight for what it was under the conditions it went down. You know, if they want to propel Usman to that superstardom level, he's got to finish. He's got to finish, or they can just, like, this is what I don't understand, why the UFC haven't done this already, and they missed the ship with Joanna on this as well, because I was living in Poland at the time when Joanna was going on her, like, she was just cleaning out the women, killing it. Like, bro, she was like one fight away from breaking the Rousey record, bro. She was a cow that could have been milked so easily, and they missed the ship on this. Bro, there was no billboards of her in Poland. There was no posters of her in Poland. There was no adverts of her in Poland. There was no sponsors of her. And I'm thinking to myself, like, rah, this is insane. They've got Lewandowski everywhere. Yeah. They've got Marcin Gortat, you know, the NBA player. Yeah. They've got him everywhere, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, how come the UFC haven't, or even, like, you know, sponsors in Poland haven't used this girl as one of their, you know, superstars? But it was insane to me. And they completely missed the ship on it. And it's the same with Usman. I'm getting like, bro, just take him back home, back to Nigeria, back to Africa, make him a superstar. You're going to be filling out stadiums. You're going to be selling out merch. You know, his face is going to be on the cover of everything. And that's what they should do. And it's the same with Francis as well, you know. If they really want to make money off these guys, they're missing out on a huge market abroad.
I hear that completely, and I completely agree with you in that they've got to take advantage and propel these people, especially in the countries that they're from, like Nigeria, and Ghana is from Cameroon, and all the others. I think they're doing that with I think with Israel, it's more they're pushing it in America more than, obviously, I think he resides in New Zealand, but he's Nigerian, Nigerian descent. But they definitely should push it and make it more so these guys can become global superstars, if not in America, at least in the countries that they are from. But I just wanted to find, on the final point of this fight, what next for Masvidal, and what next? I think we kind of know what is next for Usman, but in terms of Burns, once the whole Corona scenario is sorted out, and obviously Usman takes his rest, we probably think that will be the next fight. But what next for Masvidal? Where does he go from here?
Yeah, I think after the fight, he said himself, like, they'll run it back after he wins a few more fights, and that's basically it. Like, I don't think they'll be giving him a rematch anytime soon. I think someone in the top 5 is definitely next for him, so he can, you know, maintain his status as a #1 contender. But there's also a money fight out there for him in terms of fighting Nate again, you know, for the rematch.
Yeah.
So those are his 2 most realistic options. But I think he would probably be given a top 5 contender next.
Wonderboy?
I would like to see the Wonderboy rematch. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely there. I don't know who else is in the top 10. I know Leon Edwards is there. I know Colby's there. I know, what's his name? Gilbert Burns is there as well. Him and Rocky, Leon Edwards can fight. You know, him and Rocky can fight, because, you know, after the Darren Till fight in London, they had that whole backstage, you know, free pizza and a soda. So that'll be an interesting fight. That could be done in the UK as well, and that would sell out, you know. So I would like to see him versus Rocky, because Rocky is meant to be the #1 contender as well. There was talk, like, when Usman, you know, when Usman beat Colby Covington, he was the name Usman was calling out. Calling out Rocky, and they had fought in the past as well. So that's a rematch. So Rocky's a definite legitimate contender out there. You know, he's slept on, but he's definitely a legitimate contender. as far as Usman goes, again, the Rocky fight is there. Should something happen, again, like someone gets injured, Burns gets injured, or the Burns fight, which was initially meant to be this fight, could happen. But yeah, it's most likely going to be Gilbert Burns, I think,
right.
which I think will be a harder fight for him than Masvidal.
100%. Well, that was the first fight. Let's move on to some more controversial, a more controversial result, which was the co-main event, which was Alexander versus Max Holloway. Tooth, how did you score it? And we had some people saying it was one of the biggest robberies in UFC history. I don't think it was that bad. But how did you score it? What did you think happened in the second fight in terms of the way the decision went? It was a split decision, but in terms of Alexander retaining his title.
Well, to answer your first question, how I scored it 3-2 to Max, right? That was during the fight. But after the fight, just reflecting, I was like, maybe that third round could have been a draw.
Yeah.
And that would have changed everything. That would have been a draw as opposed to me giving it to Max. But as far as it being a robbery, man, these fans sometimes, bro.
I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it. I was like, robbery, really? I was like, we've seen a lot worse.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I mean. Like, sometimes it's difficult to separate yourself from the fighter that you like a lot. I like Max Holloway a lot, bro. I reckon he is one of the greatest featherweights of all time. But I don't let that, cloud my judgment when I'm trying to look at a fight objectively. So that's what happens when normally there's a close fight and the horse that you had in the race doesn't win. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be calling it a robbery, this, that, and the third. But it was a very close fight. I can see why they gave it to Volkanovski. They definitely scored takedowns very highly in a round. And even though Max got back up, that seemed to be enough in the judges' minds to give those rounds to Volkanovski. But they were definitely swing rounds. It could have gone to either or. And as you said in the judges' scorecard, the decision was a split. So obviously one of the judges saw the round going for Max, despite Volkanovski's takedown attempt. So yeah, it's a tough one. But that was the biggest surprise for us because, again, in the pre-fight show, what we had predicted was Holloway just being a punching bag. Like, he didn't train as hard for this fight. He was training on Zoom. Bruv, all I can say is, do you know what I mean? We were giving him so much shit for training on Zoom, bruv.
Like, I'm telling you.
He basically won that fight off Zoom, bruv. It's mad. But, he was the biggest surprise, bruv. So, that fight didn't go as we expected. We thought Volkanovski was just going to run through him, I think even some of us called it a finish, like Volkanovski.
Yeah, we did.
It was the furthest thing from, those early rounds. Max was putting in that work, and I remember between round 2 and 3, right, when the bell rang and he walked back to his corner, he went like this, like he threw up 2 fingers to say to the commentators, 2-0. Yeah. Bruv, at that point, I just slapped my face.
Yeah, so did I.
I was like, bruv, you just lost the fight now,
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's the thing, because I think it's a complete contrast from what we are used to seeing from Max Holloway, because he's known as a slow starter in fights, and he finishes well. But I think it was a role reversal where he started well. Yes, he had the first 2 rounds. I don't know why he did that, to be honest, telling the commentators to shush and I'm 2-0 up and whatnot. And then the fight completely changed. As I said, the third round is the round that everyone has an issue with. I mean, me personally, I scored that round a draw. I scored the fight a draw. But some people gave it to, a lot of people gave it to Max, some people gave it to Alexander. Obviously, the judges, two of the judges gave it to Alexander. But I think the other issue in that fight was the way that Max approached the last round, because he took a lot of damage in the final round. And that's another thing that could have swung it to Alexander's way, because there was takedowns in there. There's a lot of shots that he was taking. Yeah. Did he gas out, or was it a case of he just thought he had done enough and the fight was won?
Yeah, this is deep, because during the 5th round, literally, like, I think a minute into the 5th round on my WhatsApp group, me and my boys are talking. And like, I remember saying, I've got it 3-1 for Max. Yeah. And as soon as a minute into the 5th round, I write on the WhatsApp group and I say, Volkanovski's the fresher fighter. You know, all the shots Max is throwing are laboured.
Yeah.
And it was so evident. And I think absolutely it was one of those things where it could have been a bit of both, where, yeah, he had thought he was 3-1 up in his head. Because obviously that's like what I thought, that's probably what his corner must have been thinking. Like he was doing pretty well. And it could have been, again, a bit of just gassing out. Like I said in the previous fight we were talking about, the jet lag, adjusting to the climate, the weight cut. You know, he's had a full camp, but he's not had a proper camp. You know, he's not had sparring partners or anything of that nature. So, yeah, I think it was a combination of both. And that's not what he's known for. You know, we discussed this previously and you just brought it up. Like, he was known for being the guy in the 5th round, being the fresher guy, turning it up another volume where he's just dragging you into deep waters and you can't get out. Whereas now he's the one like throwing the laboured shots. So it's unfortunate. And I think he couldn't have. You know, we know Max. His resume shows differently. In the 5th round, in the later rounds, he just turns it on against everyone. He's taken out everyone in the featherweight division. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a resume that is second to none. The Frankie Edgars, that like the Cub Swansons, you name it. Top 5 guys that were in there forever. And he went on an insane run. I think his last 7 or 8 fights were all title fights. You know? So to see him in the 5th round for the 2nd fight in a row, like looking laboured, it could be that it's just father time catching up. All that damage that he's taken in his career now, just it's that turning point, and that's something that we mentioned before as well.
Yeah, we did.
However, he was definitely hungry in that fight.
Yeah,
you know, we can't question that he's not at that level anymore. He definitely is still elite. However, right now in the featherweight division, there's a list of killers. So, like, you know, all the killers that I mentioned before that are not there no more. So the Frankie Edgars, Jose Aldos, you know, Cub Swansons and all those guys.
Yeah.
They're changing the guard now. Now you've got Yair, El Pantera, you got Zabit, you got Zombie, you got Ortega. All of these guys now are in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I doubt Holloway's going to be getting a rubber match anytime soon.
He deserves it, though. I mean, not so much for the first fight, but this fight that's just gone, because one of the questions that I know we said, excuse me, we did say that we accepted Volkanovski to run through him, but one of the things I did say, which Max did, I did say if he boxed him at length, tried to keep the fight at length, would he do something? And to be fair, in the first 2 rounds, that was clearly the game plan. He did keep him at length. First round, dropped him with the was it the uppercut in the first round, or was it the kick to the head? One of them was a kick to the head. The other one was uppercut.
It was the right roundhouse kick to the head.
Yeah.
Clipped nicely as well. Bruv, sorry to interrupt, bruv. Just on a technical level, yeah?
Yeah.
Max has been so elusive with his striking. A lot of people in the UFC, even champions like Usman and Volkanovski, are very, very basic with their striking. And I don't mean that to any disrespect, but I mean they're on a level where it's just like one punch or one punch, two punch combination. Like, it's very direct, it's very textbook. Whereas people like Max, he uses feints and it's almost like another level where he might feint with the jab, but then throw the hook to the body. You know, he's one of those guys. He might feint with the cross, but throw the lead hook. You know, he's giving you all these different looks and angles, and he's very elusive. And that's something that's got him very far in his career, and that's what makes him my fucking boy. Do you know what I mean? I love shit like that. Yeah. And exactly in the first 2 rounds, it was some throwback Max Holloway. It put a giant smile on my face watching in those first 2 rounds. Up until the moment where he went up to the commentators and went, I was like, at that point, I was like, bruv, you fucked it up now. But yeah, you're absolutely right, bruv. He was showing that, he was showing them looks to Volkanovski. Volkanovski was on the end of all of those punches, and Holloway even knocked him down with the right roundhouse kick at the end of the first round. And in my head, I was thinking, fuck, if there was like a minute left, he could have flurried him, probably, you know what I mean? But
because he was hurt after that roundhouse kick.
Yeah.
He was hurt, and then in the second round, he dropped him with the uppercut as well. He dropped to the knee as well. And then I think Volkanovski changed tact, got a bit more aggressive with the leg kicks and got closer. And I think that's where the fight changed, because he was getting closer to Max Holloway. I mean, if we look, I think in the third round, I think the significant strikes was 34-28 in favor of Holloway. And I think that's why quite a few people gave that round to him. But then, as you say, in the UFC, they score takedowns highly. And Volkanovski did get a takedown in that third round. And then obviously the fifth, Max took a lot of damage. But I do think they have to run the rematch again. I don't think they could. I think there has to be a trilogy. Even though Max has lost 2, the way in which that second fight went, I think he's more than proven that he deserves a third fight, because I think, don't get me wrong, it's not the biggest robbery in the world, but I think it's left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths at the fact that the fight wasn't scored at least a draw. And that obviously a majority of people think that Max won. But as you say, there's a lot of other contenders out there that need their shot. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Max, because as you say, Father Time is coming, even though I think he's 28, 29?
Yeah.
28, 29?
He's young, bruv. He was one of the youngest debutantes in the UFC. And this is like, I think he was like 18. And since then, he's not left the UFC. He's had easily well over like 15, 20 fights in the UFC. Do you know what I mean? He's a veteran, despite his young age. So that's what I mean. All that mileage on that body, bruv, it's a lot. Like I said, last 7 fights, 8 fights, all title fights. You know, that's insane, bro. It's nuts. He peaked very early. Mm-hmm. And now I think, you know, with someone like Volkanovski in the frame, and then definitely all these other like killers, like I said, he could probably win a lot of those fights. And arguably he could have won the fight last night. Yeah. It's just a question of now we're seeing like chinks in the armor. Max Holloway,
of course.
But yeah, he's still definitely up there. As far as deserves a rematch, I completely agree. As far as if it's the next move that's best for business, I don't think so. I think they'll look for another option.
100%.
But I definitely think there'll be a trilogy for sure. Yeah. Whether or not if it's a title fight or not, but down the line they definitely will have the rubber match.
I think that's a fight that everyone would want to see, especially after the fight that we saw last night. And speaking of Father Time, we're going to go to our third co-main event, Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. The result was what we expected, but I think we saw a lot more from Jose Aldo than what we anticipated. I think a couple pundits said that Jose actually threw the fight away to a certain extent because of the way that he was performing in the first couple rounds. It was an entertaining fight. What did you think, too?
Man, again, it like a lot of things we got right in the pre-fight show, and a lot of things we got wrong. You know, we just didn't expect, again, similar to Max Holloway's performance, where we just all thought he was just going to be a sitting duck. We thought the same about Jose, you know.
Apart from the truth.
Yeah, the truth, obviously, but because that's his boy, innit? It's so biased. But yeah, he kind of called it, you know. He said Aldo by knockout. But, you know, again, it was the furthest thing from an Aldo knockout. However, Aldo put in work, man. He put in work. Some throwback Aldo in those first 2 rounds. And I think I was scoring it. Like, I can't remember because it was so early in the morning, but if my memory serves me correctly, I was scoring the first 2 rounds for Aldo, or at least the first round for Aldo. I gave 1 round solidly to Aldo. I remember that. I
think it was the second, not the first.
Bruv, forgive me, man. I was watching this live, innit? So my brain is all scattered all over the place. But yeah, absolutely, man. Some throwback Aldo. He was putting in work, but then you knew if Jan had him hurt at any point, it was going to be an uphill battle from that point on.
That's true.
That's what I saw. I saw, you know, Aldo's putting in work. He's putting in work, but you know, if this was an Aldo that was 10 years ago, he probably would have finished.
Yeah, he would have finished him.
Yeah. But now it's like, you know, you're throwing your best weapons at him, and it's still not kind of making any difference. It's just a matter of time before this young, fresh, hungrier, dominant, completely like superior, younger fighter's just gonna
take over,
capitalize, on that moment when it comes. And that's what happened. And bruv, not only did he capitalize on it, he completely like destroyed him. Like he had him face down, mounted his back, and just throwing these haymakers from 12 to fucking 6, bruv.
It was uncomfortable to watch. There was a couple of times. Credit.
Get up, did he? Like Aldo was on the floor. Like after the fight, Aldo was still.
No, he didn't. He was still on the floor.
Bruv, trust me, it was sad to watch, bruv. If you've been the truth, you know, I can imagine for him that must have been heartbreaking to watch. Even for me as an Aldo fan, like growing up with him and watching, it's like, oh fuck, did you have to fuck him up that bad? Like, you know what I mean?
I'm telling you. And credit to Aldo, because there was various times when the referee was trying to jump in and he moved and he tried everything to keep the fight going. But then it was just horrible, man. Like you just be like I think the thing that got me was just how much blood that was left after like once the referee finally jumped in and stopped it for the TKO. I was just like, damn, man. And it's a sad sight to see, because Jody Aldo is a legend in the game. And
the true martial artist, like, trust me, I hate when I listen to Bisping commentate. I hate certain commentators. They just piss me off. Bisping and the worst is Dominic Cruz. Like, I hate listening to these guys, but I'll save that for another day. But one thing I remember Bisping saying, like right at the beginning of the fight, he was like, "This is the most. This guy epitomizes martial arts. You know what I mean? Like the respect, the dignity, the honor that is associated with this guy is what it's all about." And I just thought about that, and I was like, yeah, man, like no matter what happens in Aldo's career, he's got the respect of everyone. You know what I mean? That's the outcome of any fight. So that's why when I saw that ending, I was like, fuck, man. But it's like, if it was to happen to anyone, it would be someone like him. Like, that is the most honorable way to go out on. You know, like literally going out to someone has to jump in. Yeah. You know, like you're leaving it. You're still fighting right to the very end. You're still fighting. You know.
Of course.
And for him, I think he should just call it a day now.
Yeah, it's time to. I think that's one of the things himself and Anderson Silva Like, it's time to go, because ruining your legacy. Don't get me wrong, going to be a legend, but you're going out with a whimper now, man. It's just like your body. Like, think about your health more than anything else. Like, I know we want to get paid, we want to make money, but bro, there's a sorry. Jay's trying to enter the room.
Yeah, let him in, bro. We'll just keep rolling with the punches. We'll just keep rolling with the punches. Shit, I was just like, hold on, bro. I'm gonna get my charger. 1 second.
Yeah. I think that Father Time's come, and I don't want them ruining. I don't want him ruining his legacy. I mean, it's been a downhill spiral since Conor McGregor, and to be honest, I think it's time. Hang up the boots, get your legendary status, UFC Hall of Fame. We thank you for everything that you've done, all the entertainment, but especially in the way that Peter Yan finished you in this last fight. I think that's time. It's time to say goodbye, man. I think it really is time to say goodbye. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on what next for Peter Yan. I'm not clued up about that division as all the others, but what is the next fight that you see happening and for him?
Yeah, so the bantamweight division right now is an interesting landscape in terms of who's in there and who's left. So who's left is Henry Cejudo's left. And Dominic Cruz, you can more or less say, is out of the picture as well now. And who remains is some killers, man. So in the bantamweight division right now, you've got Aljamain Sterling, you know, your boy from Jamaica, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Repping. Yeah, he's definitely the next, in my opinion, the next contender for Peter Yan. He's called him out as well after his last fight against Corey Sandhagen, who's my boy. You know, when I was discussing earlier about Max Holloway, the way he feints and, you know, he might lead you to believe he's throwing a jab, but he throws a hook off it. Corey Sandhagen is very similar in that style. He's a very exciting fighter. But he just lost to Aljo convincingly as well. He got choked the fuck out in the first round. So definitely clear-cut contender is Aljo. But on the fringes, you've got Corey Sandhagen and you've got the resurgence of Cody Garbrandt. You know, he came out and he went viral with that knockout.
Yeah, mad thing.
Yeah, Rafael Sunsao. Completely just throwback as well, like old school Cody Garbrandt, where he was just flatlining people. That was one of those. So, and then prospects, you've got Sean O'Malley, you know, another viral kid.
He's fighting on. I think he's fighting on the next card, isn't he?
I think so. I've got to double check, man. But I know he just came off a knockout victory against. Forgot the dude's name, the ginger dude with the mustache. It's a fucking legend. Fuck, it's gonna piss me off. Oh, what's his name?
Can't help you there, mate.
Yeah, fuck it. Anyway, it will come to me. But yeah, he completely knocked him out with that that right cross, flatlined him, and that was on the same card as the Cody fight.
Oh yeah.
You know, after the fight, the interviewers asked Cody, like, what do you think? They were comparing their careers as prospects and, you know, going on this insane run. And Cody just shut that down. So you can already see there's like there could be a potential rivalry between Sean O'Malley and Cody Garbrandt, which will be exciting. So there's a lot of mouth-watering fights that could happen in that division, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, definitely for Aldo, it's you know, he could be thrown in some of those fights, you know, but I don't think that's what's best for him. No. However, you know, you have to understand, man, these fighters will keep fighting until they can't fight no more. You know, Bisping went in there with one eye for the last, like, what, 7 to 10 fights of his career. Do you know what I mean? With one eye, bruv. These guys, it's not about, it gets beyond the point where I think they care about legacy or their record. I think it's strictly because they're so true to being a martial artist that they have to fight, you know. And that's what I think it is. And that's why I think you see guys like Anderson Silva and Jose Aldo just keep fighting and fighting. You know, in Thai boxing, you know, in Thailand, where, you know, in the Lumpini stadiums and stuff, bro, these guys have been fighting since the age of 12 and they're still fighting up until the age of 40 plus. You know, it's like the proper epitome of a warrior, of a true martial artist. And that's what they're like. You know, same in the Shaolin Temple. You know, they have them kids from like youths, and then they're there their whole life, basically. It's like, it's that journey of a martial artist. Same with the karate guys and the judo guys, like the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. They spend their whole lives in the gym. They're just fighters, you know. So that's why I think you're probably not going to get them to stop until they don't want to stop.
I hear that completely, but you know, there's health to think about and everything else. And the last thing we want to see with fighters is end up in wheelchairs or end up in comas and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I understand that the nature of the fight game is that you always want to fight. They've got that urge to fight, and some of them feel incomplete without fighting. But you got to look at the flip side of it and think about your health. And as you age, things only get harder. But we shall see what happens with Jose Aldo, whether or not it was his last fight or not. And we shall see what happens in the bantamweight division. On the final subject, I just wanted to touch on UFC 252. It's been confirmed. Miocic versus Cormier 3. We've been waiting a while for it. Obviously, in the first fight, it was a first round. Was it knockout TKO? Which one was it?
Yeah, the first fight was a KO for Daniel Cormier.
And the second fight was a fourth round stoppage.
For Stipe. So it's not. It's 1-1, and each of them have finishes over the other. So it's set up nicely. Interesting fight.
Of course. Yeah. Just. I don't. Obviously, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
It's August 15th. We're gonna have a pre-fight show of it. But just off the cuff, because obviously it was announced yesterday. How much are you looking forward to that fight, and what are you expecting?
Yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting fight. They haven't released the whole card yet, but I think Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera are gonna fight. Chito Vera is like one of my boys, so I can't wait for that fight. It's gonna be a sick fight. In terms of Stipe and Cormier, it's tough. You know, it's a tough one. Cormier has come out and said he's just gonna lay and pray. You know, he's gonna do exactly what Usman done in the Jorge fight. He's going to do exactly what Curtis Blades done in the Volkov fight, which happened recently, which is just go out there and wrestle them. If they get up, put them back down. Stay on top of them. If they try to get up, keep them down. Like, that's all he's going to do. And that's what he said he's going to do. If that's the case, yeah, I think he could win the fight. But Stipe is also an elite level mixed martial artist. And he might be able to, you know, stuff those takedowns and defend those takedowns and keep the fight standing and do some real damage, you know, if he fights the fight with a strategy and a game plan. If he's there right now defending takedowns all the time in training, then he should be very well prepared for the Cormier fight. People go on and act as if, like, this is UFC 1 or UFC 2, you know, where one discipline is enough to, like, completely win the fight. And it's not. I mean, these elite level fighters now should be able to get up off their back if they're taken down. You know, they shouldn't have one discipline completely nullify their whole skill set. So I do believe Stipe is in that class of an elite mixed martial artist. And I believe he will be. If he does get taken down, he will be able to get back up and he will be able to keep the fight standing and employ his strategy. However, DC is just another, you know, he's a wrecking ball, man. He gets hold of you. Early in his career, that's all he done was wrestling, and he destroyed people up until he fought John Jones for the first time. You know, he's got a whole resume of bodies on there. You know what I mean? He's got names on there for days at heavyweight. So it's interesting, like 2 elite level mixed martial artists going at it. It's going to be tight.
Of course, and we will have our pre-fight show and we'll go in depth about that more soon. But Tooth, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, bro, about UFC 251. Upcoming, we've got probably another analysis tomorrow, more in depth, if you're available. But we do have some football analysis coming up in the days to come. Tooth, thank you very much, sir. Have a good one. Thanks. Enjoy your day and join us next time for another episode. Peace.
Peace.